Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and I want to welcome you to day 323 of Humanity Rising. This is the equinox today. It is also a full moon. In fact, the Chinese people and peoples around Asia have a festival of the moon on this day and over the previous couple of days. Yom Kippur, a Jewish holiday, the Day of Judgment was last Thursday. So this is a period of the year where the light and dark dimensions are in equipoise, perfectly balanced. And people celebrate the festival of harvest and the coming of the winter. So welcome to this day. Over the last 11 days since 9/11, which was the 20th anniversary of the bombing of the World Trade Centers and the Pentagon, till yesterday, which is the International Day of Peace, Humanity Rising partnered with We the World and the Sign Network and scores and scores of other organizations from all over the world. The 11 Days of Global Unity has been going on since 2004 as a bridge between the savagery of humans with one another to the International Peace Day of the United Nations, which celebrates a vision that has motivated humanity from the very beginning around world peace. One thing I want everyone to know is that at 5 o'clock p.m. this afternoon, Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're having a 11 days after party. It's only going to last for about an hour, but Rick Olfick will be playing the piano, and you'll remember the two gentlemen that closed us out yesterday with extraordinary music. They're going to be appearing, and other musicians. It'll just be a time for people to just to hang out together in celebration of a partnership that reverberated around the world to hundreds and thousands and even millions of people during these 11 days. So I just want to express our deep appreciation for the partnership and consecration of the poignancy of this moment of equipoise between the light and dark dimensions on the occasion of a full moon. In that spirit, let's just pause as we always do, center ourselves in our bodies, close our eyes, and attune ourselves with our heart. Listen to your heartbeat in a spirit of gratitude and deep thanksgiving that you're alive. We're all alive at this most extraordinary moment in the human journey.
Raju
Thank you, everyone. Now, with an open heart and a heart full of gratitude and love for each and every one of you who are joining our session today, we want to turn to the east on this day of the equinox. And we want to talk with a woman, Sri Preethaji, who, with her husband, Sri Krishnaji, have established an organization called Ekam, a worldwide organization that empowers people in mindfulness and awakening to their deep human potential in a way that enables them to express compassion and healing in their communities and with the people with whom they interact. Sri Preethaji has a particular focus on women's empowerment. She also is attuned to the power of silent meditation. She's been here in the United States, actually, over the last several weeks. And one of her colleagues, Patricia Keel, will be active on our chat as I dialogue with Sri Preethaji. So Sri Preethaji, welcome to Humanity Rising. And why don't we begin by having you just tell your story, a little bit about your background and your pathway to the beginnings of your awakening. Welcome.
To be here with you, Jim. It's been a joy to be with you on this platform. Regarding my own path and my own awakening. My awakening began when I was 9 years old. And it's probably very different from what happens to others, because everybody awakened to a beautiful, wonderful state or a profound insight. But my realization when I was 9 years old was that people around me actually did not experience life the way I experienced. The filter that is there between me and the other, which I felt did exist for so many people around me, that filter wasn't there. I was able to feel people. It's definitely not reading people or mind reading, but able to feel the other being, whether it is their joy or their sorrow. And that kind of separation that I did not feel when I was 9 years old, I woke up to see that people around me did not live that way. That was the first stage, we can, if you want to call it that way. That was how it began. Then at 17, had profound states in consciousness, experienced state of oneness, experienced states where there was no self, but just the universal self, experienced states where there was no judgment, a deep inner profound stillness, a quietness. And that awakening continued and has become more deep after I am married to Sri Krishnaji. And for those who are not aware, Krishnaji and I, we are husband and wife. We are the creators of Ekam, a World Center for Enlightenment. Our vision is to awaken people to profound states in consciousness. Our vision is to move people from separation to oneness, from division to experiencing being one. And we are a second generation doing this work. We have Sri Krishnaji's parents who began this work 35 years ago. And we are continuing this vision of bringing about oneness in the world. Jim, I can't hear you.
Jim, you're muted.
Thank you, Preetji. You know, as you had your awakening experiences as a young girl, could you just describe a little bit more detail about what that was like? You've mentioned that there was a feeling of oneness, but was there a particular occasion or a particular texture? Was it through a dream? Was it through a particular kind of experience? Were you walking along a lake? Tell us a little bit more detail. Those.
It was in one of the meditations, Jim. So I have been practicing meditations. It's a part of a culture in the family. And it has been in one of those meditations that this profound experience. It is a state where you do not experience a separation from anything else around you. A state of no individual self, but a state where all that exists is there. But it began there, I can say. But it led to various other profound states coming and going, where there have been states when total absence of that inner chaos and judgment, where one experiences total inner quiet and stillness. There have been states of the heightened senses, where you begin to see colors very differently, colors of flowers or colors, even that any color that you see, the color is very different. Because it is the state in those experiences, we're free of the clutter of the mind, free of the past coloring the present. I'm being totally present to the situation. But though it began as one bang state of experiencing the universal self, it continued in different forms, various states of bliss filling in consciousness, states of stillness, states of inner quiet, states of total attention on awareness of every single thought moving in one's consciousness. These keep coming, and I can say it still happens. I can never say that we are done with awakening. I cannot say that my journey is over. Definitely not. The journey continues. Profound states still happens, and I think it will continue as long as I'm alive.
Well, the reason why I ask is because I know that you are very focused on, empowering what you call the total woman. And so one of the questions that came into my mind in terms of your awakening, was there a particular tonality about you being a woman in your awakening that led you to want to really focus on women's empowerment? Because when you talk about the total woman, it must come out of your deep personal experience as a woman. And I would wonder, for example, do you see a difference in the way that men come into an awakened state and the way that women come into an awakened state?
So when I always lead women through awakening, through the process of awakening, through the journey in awakening, I always show a light as to empowering women across the globe has been about a contest against men, against their power. But I believe that when a woman awakens to her being whole, Then how very presence has an immense power to impact people, to impact life, um, to create a change, to create a difference, to be a leader in one's family, in the organization, in the world. And coming to your question on how do men awaken and how do women awaken, is that your particular question, Jim? Awakening is essential for both men and women. And with respect to women, I have seen great leaders emerge when they are totally awakened, when they are experiencing wholeness within themselves. The way they are able to lead is incredible. And I have seen it again and again. They experience immense power to infuse life. Krishnaji speaks about the entire humanity living in two states. Krishnaji talks about an individual, whether a man or a woman. They live either in a suffering state or a no suffering state. Krishnaji says, this state from which you are living your life is responsible for your words. The state that you're experiencing is responsible for the actions that you perform, and the state is responsible for the destiny that you create. The entire humanity is living at one point. At this point in time, I am either living in a suffering state or I am living in a no suffering state. And when I use the word suffering state is not limited to sorrow alone. We're talking about any disturbing state. We're talking about a state of anger, a state of fear, a state of hurt, a state of disappointment, shame, loneliness, insecurity. Any disturbing state is a suffering state. And while no suffering state on the other side could be beautiful states of joy, calm, love, courage, or it could be states of serenity, stillness, silence, or it could be the enlightened states of being one with the whole or being the other. So the entire spectrum of no suffering states begins with peace, calm, and ends with being one with all. So Sri Krishnaji says that at any point of time, every human being is only living in a suffering state or a no suffering state. And it is this state we can say that is responsible for the destiny each and every destiny each creates for themselves and also for their loved ones. When a woman is in a suffering state, we can think of 4 dimensions of a woman. So actually there are archetypes in Hinduism. There are 4 archetypes of women goddess, and they are Shakti, Amba, Parvati, and Kali. So there are 4 archetypes of women. And these 4 archetypes, when a woman is in a suffering state, Shakti represents the power to bring about change. Shakti represents the power to infuse life, to inspire people. Shakti represents that power. But when a woman is in a suffering state, this power can get distorted. It becomes a craving for control, for dominating, for being aggressive, wanting to control what the others are doing, what the others are, sometimes even wanting to control what the others are feeling. So when a woman lives in a no suffering state, she experiences immense power to create and to transform. When she's stuck in a suffering state, that power gets distorted. And when a woman moves, the next archetype is Amba, and it is her power to power to love, her power to be a nurturer, a mother, person who's able to bring about togetherness, who's able to remove separation and bring about togetherness, and experiences a lot of compassion and joy. But when that power gets distorted, the woman is not a strong force that who brings about togetherness in the space where she is in. But when that power gets distorted, she becomes a shadow. She's gripped by fear. She lives in insecurity. She's more a shadow. She has no voice. She becomes very docile. So the question is, when a woman is awakened to her true power, she has the ability to that, being that mother, being that nurturer. It's so natural to her. But in a suffering state, that power gets distorted again. And if you look at the third archetype, which is the Kali, Kali is destroyer of ignorance, is able to throw light. When she's in no suffering state, she is a light to her family. She is a light to her organization, her community. She's intuitive. That is her power. She's able to sense trends that come along, and she's able to respond to life and be present to life. But when in a suffering state, that archetype gets distorted. That power in a woman gets distorted. She becomes self-destructive. She is in the space of self-hate and self-destruction. She brings about destruction in her family. She gets into wrong relationships. And the last of the archetype is Parvati, when the entire world sees a woman as being an enchantress. Of course, she has the ability to attract, to bring, to nurture romantic relationships. She has in a beautiful state where there is no suffering, she's able to bring about thrill in life, whatever age she is. There is a grace that flows from her. But in a suffering state, this power gets distorted. She loses her power, where she becomes obsessed about her body. She becomes a maneuverer. She wants all the attention. So that is why when a woman is awakened, the power that she can generate, the impact that she can create, the person that she can be, the individual that she can be in terms of creating a difference, nurturing people around her, bringing life to everything around her, is incredible. And it comes because she, as an individual, is whole. She is complete. She is whole. And she's able to easily connect with people around her and transform people's lives.
You know, it's so interesting that you mention these four archetypes, Preetji, because, you know, there's a number of spiritual teachers out there that say that given climate change, given the fact that we are now moving into what the Secretary General calls Code Red for humanity, we're now in a period of escalating turbulence, in the face of which our governments are quite simply no longer able to ensure stability, that we are in a time of Kali. We are in the time of the Black Madonna, the dark feminine, which is at one level a devouring mother, a destroyer of the world, but through that destruction is seeking to teach us what we need to learn for our own redemption. So as you look at the current world situation, would you agree that we are in a time of Kali? Do you believe that we are in a time of the Black Madonna? What feminine attributes would you turn to or point to for us as we come to terms with the fact that human civilization as we know it is on the brink of self-destruction? And if you look at the last report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, which came out in August, it says that humanity is quite literally in what they call unprecedented territory. And so nothing less than a complete transformation of the human psyche, the human heart and soul will suffice to deliver us. Within that context, where do you see the feminine presence? How would you describe the power of the feminine in a time of code red?
Definitely, the world is going through. I don't want to use the word, but people, I always hear that it is gone beyond repair. We are in a stage of, the world is in a stage where probably if we don't correct right now, there is no need of a correction later, because we would have destroyed ourselves fully. But I'm so glad that you asked this particular question, Jim, because throughout the world, throughout every part of the world, what we have seen is people have been focused on trying to bring about a change in one particular aspect or the other. Throughout history, it has been happening. But what needs to happen to really save our planet, to save humanity, what needs to happen is a total revolution in one's consciousness. It is climate change, it is increasing mental health, it is the COVID crisis, it's a political crisis. It is crisis in every aspect of life that we are seeing. And whatever we are seeing is a result of the consciousness with which humanity has lived. That consciousness has to undergo a change. It has to transform. Because from that old consciousness, we really cannot create anything new. We are not able to create anything different. We need to experience, we need to go beyond suffering states to experiencing no suffering states. We need to live and experience life from no suffering states. We need to go beyond experiencing constant separation to experiencing connection. We need to go beyond experiencing division to experiencing oneness. And this total transformation has to happen at the consciousness level, in order to act differently, in order to speak differently, in order to create a different destiny, either both at the individual level as well as at the collective level. And if you look at the female population, I think we are probably 50% of the world's population. And even today, we can say the females are facing injustice in terms of opportunities that has been given to them. The feminine population is experiencing insensitivity in relationships. The feminine population is experiencing inhumanity in few pockets of the world. If 50% of the population are still experiencing these three, I'm not saying everybody's experiencing this, but there is a general feeling that injustice has happened. There is a feeling that there is insensitivity. They are not seen, they are not heard, they are not as important as the male counterpart in many parts. And there is inhumanity in few pockets of the world. It's still happening. if that can change, we're talking about a huge population. And if every woman is able to feel whole, complete, is able to be that voice which can bring about a change, then we're talking about a huge movement. And that has to happen at the consciousness level. And that has to happen both within the male and the female. They need to feel that, women has to feel that they are an important part and they are a huge voice. They have the ability to be that leader. And a male has to recognize that in a female. And if that can happen, the impact that we can create on this planet is huge, is going to be tremendous. You know, ever since the COVID has, I mean, since 2020 March or a little earlier than that, we have been from India. We were not being able to travel, but from India, we have been in touch with people across the globe. For you to understand, we have people in 100 different countries following our path, wanting to be awakened and moving through inner journeys. The last 1.5 years or more, the need for awakening, the need to live a different life, to experience life differently, I would say the seeking has become much more than what it was ever before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. People have realized that, you know, it is going to be COVID-19. It was COVID-19, then COVID-20, probably COVID-21, and something else coming up. But what needs to happen is an incredible transformation in their inner world. So they are not led into anxiety and living life from that state of anxiety or fear or insecurity, or constantly living from that past experiences. And that need for awakening, I would say, has risen so much more than what it has ever been before. And I feel that is the way forward. We believe that is the way forward, because from an old consciousness, you really cannot bring about a change, whether it is in the climate front, or it is in the political front, or it is in even within families, or in the career, or what you want to create in the world. It has to happen from a new consciousness. It has to be from an awakened place. And that is absolutely needed at the current present situation that we are in.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. You know, it's one of the extraordinary effects of the pandemic is it brought everybody in the world into the same conversation.
Absolutely.
At a moment when everybody was experiencing essentially the same kind of duress, the same kind of suffering, because the pandemic spread to all of our countries, whether it was India, the United States, Rwanda, China, Russia, Brazil. All of us were being challenged in ways that we have never really been challenged before. And at the same time, the stresses of the pandemic, because the pandemic didn't go away, have been heightening all kinds of addictions, all kinds of abuse, alcoholism, delinquency, crime, suicide. People have been under the pressure of the pandemic, being in lockdown, having to engage in social distancing, and yet seeing no end in sight.
Absolutely.
That's hard on the psyche. That's hard on the soul. So you and the organization that is now reaching out to hundreds of thousands of people in over 100 countries through Ekam is a very valuable contribution. And I would say that I see it almost everywhere. As the pressure mounts, the opportunity for enlightenment mounts. But there's sort of an inverse proportion. We just saw it here in the United States, for example. just when you think there's progress, the Texas legislature now has made abortion
Yep.
Essentially illegal for all women in Texas. And now there's a bounty being put on women's head. You think of the women in Afghanistan right now. The Taliban are seizing power in a very anti-women kind of way. You see it in different countries, so that the call for enlightenment is not happening in normal times. The call for enlightenment is happening in increasingly turbulent times when fear and division tend to be accentuated in the psyche. So I was just wondering how you and your husband and your organization are taking into consideration the increased, I would say, psychic pressure on almost everybody in the world right now, given unfolding events. Is there a particular quality to your teachings that are being accentuated and directly relevant to the world in a time of COVID, for example?
Absolutely, Jim. So when Sri Krishnaji says that we live only in two states, suffering or no suffering, and to see the entire population living in anger, insecurity, frustration, irritability, sadness, being stuck in that place. Imagine it is not, as you said, it's just not one country, one place, but it is probably the pandemic has united the entire population.
Yeah.
And most of them living in suffering states. And the problem with suffering states is, we call it the law of consciousness. The more you are engrossed in suffering states, you actually create more chaos, or you bring more chaos into your life. So the teaching, the path, the process is for you to liberate yourself from that suffering state and nurture a no suffering state in your consciousness, irrespective of what situation you are in. Because when you live in a no suffering state, it is like you are pulling in the auspiciousness that can happen to you in your life. So the more the suffering state, the more you are moving into a more chaotic world. And for a huge population having moved into suffering states, we from Ekam in India, we have been giving out our hands to help people move out of the suffering states, to experience greater peace and calm, so they can respond from that state with greater intelligence. When you are fearful, when you are insecure, when you are disturbed, please understand there is no intelligence that can come along from that state. What can happen is your actions can create more problems. Your actions can create more divisions. That is what can happen from a suffering state. So we were there, we are there, and we are instilling, and I can say for sure there are thousands of people spread across the world who are living in a state of peace, even in this chaotic situation. They are addressing this chaotic situation from a state of peace rather from a state of inner chaos. Because from an inner chaos, we are going to create more chaos. And we just got into Los Angeles a couple of days back. It is really sad to see very sad faces. It is really sad to see people are getting very, very disturbed at the slightest of something that doesn't happen according to their wish. Very disturbed. I just want to make sure that I want at least the people who are listening to us, there is a path that is available for you to live in a place of state of calm and peace, and be that awakened being experiencing greater joy even amidst this situation. So you could be that light which can create a with through your actions, through your words, through your gestures, you can actually help so many people come out of these suffering states. What I'm trying to say is the more you are in a suffering state, more chaotic your life is going to be. And you're not able to be in a position to see light. Definitely there is no light at this current point of time where we are going to head in the external world, but the entire process can be from a more calmer state, more beautiful state. And it has been possible for so many thousands across the globe, and it's going to be possible for every one of you.
Well, I think you're making a fundamentally important point, Preetji, that the greater the chaos without, the more you need coherence within.
Absolutely.
And that's why every morning when we start Humanity Rising, we do a minute or two of just simple heart coherence, where we all just join our hearts together, in the spirit of Ilya Prigogine, that you can create islands of coherence in the sea of chaos if you create the intention and actually trim tab off the energy of chaos to create the coherence. And that if you can create a certain refinement of coherence, it allows the chaos to actually shift state and become itself coherent. So that's a very fundamental a truth that you're speaking. And in that regard, I would love you to share with our community the 4 sacred secrets that you teach, because I would know that that is essential to creating the kind of coherence in our psyche and soul that is required for navigating increasing chaos in our external world.
Actually, there's another thing definitely would like to share with you and the audience, Jim. Every year, in the month of August and September, Sri Krishnaji and I lead the Ekam World Peace Festival, where millions across the globe come together and they meditate for peace in the world. And last year, we had over 10 million people join this sacred cause. And this Peace Festival it's not like angry rebellions going out on the road for a peace march. This is individuals wanting to contribute towards world peace, gathering together online right now, gathering together and meditating for peace of the world and the humanity. So this Peace Festival is, I don't know if you'll have this interview out before that, but this Peace Festival is on the 17th, 18th, and the 19th of September.
And we'll promote it between now and then.
Yeah, and each of these days, 17th is for bringing about peace, peace for economic injustice. 18th is for peace, for bringing about peace so that there can be no division in the world. And the third one is peace for healing the planet. So we have this 3-day peace festival, sorry, 3-day peace festival happening, and it is over 20 million people coming together, meditating for peace, for bringing about peace for the world and humanity. Beautiful. And with regarding to the 4 sacred secrets, I would say that is a book everybody who wants to begin to bring about a transformation in their life, that they need to pick it up. In this book, we share simple parts. We leave you with a reflection. This book was intended not to be written as a knowledge or information sharing book, but it is basically Krishnaji and I have written it for it to become a personal journey. It is You take the book, you hold on to it, you read it slowly, you reflect on it, you internalize it, and there is a journey of awakening that can happen with the book for you. And that, I would say, would be the starting point of anybody's journey. Sorry. And this book is for anybody. It's not necessary that you need to be a person who has gone through many journeys or who knows spirituality. It is for anybody who wants to start a journey, but it works for both. Whether you're a pro or a beginner, this book is a great starting book for awakening.
And what would be the four secrets? Just lay out and summarize the four sacred secrets of your particular teaching.
The four sacred secrets is for you to live in with a spiritual vision of living a life from a no suffering state. The second secret is for you to live a life of knowing what is arising within you. That is, for centuries or for many thousands of years, the focus of the civilization has been on the external world. It has not been on one's inner state. So this is about ability to know what is arising within you. The third secret is where you access the intelligence that is prevalent in this universe. As mystics, we see life as not independent existence, but it is more a fabric, and there is an intelligence prevailing in this entire fabric of life, and there is a way of accessing this intelligence. The third secret is about accessing the intelligence, and the fourth secret is about right action. If you look at life itself, you're constantly faced with the dilemma of what should I do, or how should I act? Should I choose this or choose that? Or should I be with this person or should I not be with this person? Should I be aggressive or should I be submissive? So you're constantly faced with the dilemma of how to act in life. So the fourth sacred secret is about what exactly would be a right action, an action that is free of inner chaos, an action that emerges from a space of inner calm and inner peace. That would be right action. So this would be a step-by-step journey for one's inner world, where you create a vision for your inner state, because the entire world is focusing on not many people, but most of them, even if you talk about a vision, they talk about a vision for their health, vision for the relationship, vision for what you want to achieve, vision for how much you want to earn. But over here, we're talking about a spiritual vision where it is a vision for your inner state. From what state do you want to live and experience life? People are continuing to live and experience life from a state of insecurity or anxiety. Probably that started off when probably you were left in school without your mom and your dad for the first time. And you continue to revisit that state, strengthen that state, make that your state, make that your way of living. And people live lives 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from the same state of insecurity. A spiritual vision is about having a vision for what state you want to live your life from. And it is about bringing attention, ability to bring attention to your inner truth, to know what exactly you're able to feel, and to access the power that is beyond the individual, the universal intelligence. You can call it God, you can call it divine, we call it universal intelligence. And then to perform actions from a state where you feel connected.
Mm. Well, it's so interesting, Preetji. What's coming up for me is the Bhagavad Gita. I recently read the Gita, and what you're describing of choosing right action, coming from the right place of awareness. I was seeing echoes of the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, and I was just wondering, your relationship with the Bhagavad Gita, because that is such a powerfully foundational text for the Indian subcontinent and for the Hindu pantheon of doctrine and belief. And that was raising a question in my mind of, how do you and Krishnaji, how do you see your relationship with the very ancient teachings of the rishis and the Upanishadic masters, the Vedas from the deep past of India? Where do you
The
place
revelations,
yourself in this tradition?
yeah, the revelations from the Vedas, revelations from the Upanishadic texts, the Bhagavad Gita, they're all experiences of great sages, great saints who have had the ability to go beyond the mind and experience those profound states in consciousness. What Krishnaji and I teach, in that sense, have emerged from our own experiences, and also it carries, we can say, it carries the tinge of Hinduism. And Hinduism, what I'm talking about right now is the Upanishadic lineage of those powerful states, of experiencing those powerful states in consciousness. And if you have to put in a nutshell, Jim, how people identify what Krishnaji and I do from Ekam is we call it Buddha driving the Benz. We're not talking about individuals moving out of the world, moving out of relationships, but at the same time experiencing and living life like a Buddha from those states. So it is the coming together of these two worlds. And we believe the problems, the chaos, the confusion, in anything for that matter, whether in a relationship that we are seeing that is spread across the world, or the chaos in terms of division that we're experiencing, what is lacking in an individual is that state. If an individual is able to awaken to that state, we don't believe that the individual has to walk out of life, but instead create things in life by which that individual in that awakened state can impact so many more lives. So that is why we see it is the state as well as abundance coming together. It is Buddha who's traveling in a Benz with one loved ones. That is the vision that we hold for humanity. And we believe that when a particular number of humanity gets transformed or awakened, when there is an awakening in consciousness, and it is, if 0.001% of humanity is awakened and is living in that state, it is this transformation, this awakening is not going to be limited to that 0.001%. It is going to spread. It is going to create a resonance in the entire fabric of life. So that is why our vision is to create those individuals, those Buddhas who can still drive a Benz, have a wonderful family, but live in that profound state and consciousness. And that we feel is a solution to most of the problems that we are seeing in today.
Well, that's a fascinating notion. There's a group called Global Coherence Pulse that you may have heard
Yes, I'm
about,
aware of
where
them. Yeah.
once a month, people all over the world come together at a certain time and just engage in a meditative heart coherence, really. And the scientific data is showing that when certain global events happen, the world psyche, the world spirit is activated in one way or another. And I know the Maharishi, that started the transcendental movement,
Yes.
was very focused on creating a critical mass of meditators with a single focused intention. And the crime rates would go down, and different indicators of violence and strife would go down. So it would be a wonderful thing if all the groups in the world that are seeking world peace could somehow come together in a unified way. I have no doubt that we would have probably more impact if we came together at that level than anything we do, working on some specific piece of legislation, in New Delhi or in
No, what
Washington.
needs to happen is a fundamental transformation in consciousness, Jim. And if that doesn't happen, it is going to be the same anger, same greed, same insecurity that is going to lead individuals' actions. And it will be the same crisis, probably in different forms. I would say 2 years back when I was here, we haven't been traveling, right? Because we are stuck in individual homes and countries wherever we are. So, 2 years back, when we traveled, in every table, it would be about politics. Individuals were obsessed about this or that. And today, after 2 years, we're traveling again. And when we sit on tables, it is again the same two things, vaccination or no vaccination, mask or no mask. The mind itself is the same.
Yeah.
The context is changing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the mind is the same. It is same obsessive mind that is constantly dividing and taking stance, feeling one is right, the other is wrong. Unless until there is a transformation at the fundamental level, the context will keep changing. The quality of life is going to be the same.
Yeah. 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 Well, that leads to a question, Preetji, about, do you have a particular technique that you teach? Thinking, for example, of Maharishi again. He introduced transcendental meditation, and it was about just breathing and following your mantra. Even if you're from the West and you don't even understand what the mantra means, it was simply the act. And for him, it was 20 minutes. If you do it 20 minutes a day over 6 weeks, he would say, in a disciplined way, your life is going to change. And he had a real impact. One thinks of Bhagwan and his dynamic meditation. One thinks of the different schools and gurus that are out there. All have a certain technique for accessing the awareness that you so skillfully describe. In your own teachings, do you teach a particular technique?
When Sri Krishnaji had an awakening, when Sri Krishnaji was 11 years old, Sri Krishnaji was able to transfer grace by connecting in his own heart. He was able to transfer grace to the other person, which is the Diksha phenomenon. That is what we call. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And every person who has this awakening actually has the ability to transfer that grace to another person. The person connects to the universal intelligence or the Antaryaman, the indweller in their heart. And from that space, transfer grace to the other person's heart. And Diksha is a phenomenon that happens worldwide, that is happening, continuing to happen worldwide, where people are able to transfer grace. This is one of the central, if you want to call it a technique, this central process that happens at Ekam. And then we have the teachings, we have the right wisdom. We lead people through meditations, we lead people through deep processes. We help individuals to let go of their samskaras, that is the past that is flowing in their life, either the past from their own childhood or past from the previous lives. There are processes which remove the destructive tendencies that is lingering in one's consciousness. It is a process of awakening to the higher intelligence, being in connect with the divine, having a personal experience. Again, I wanted to be very clear. It is just not knowledge. It is a journey. It is an experience. It is being in those states and then living life from those states. If you have to talk about one central phenomenon, I would talk about the Diksha phenomenon that is happening where each individual who's awakened is able to transfer grace.
That's fascinating. That Krishnaji is a transmuter of grace.
Yes,
that's his particular charism. Mother Teresa was that way. She just had that capacity to transfer love and grace into the little children there in Calcutta and wherever she was in the world, and built an entire organization worldwide, really,
yes,
around embodying graceful compassion among those suffering the most acutely. And it's an interesting phenomenon that you're able to pass on the transmission, that as people become awakened in your community, they then can awaken others in a series of concentric circles going out. I'd love to hear more about how you understand what grace is. How would you distinguish grace from love, for example? What's that particular quality of grace that is transmitted? Does it have the effect, for example, to heal?
Yes, it has the ability to heal bodies. It has the ability to heal hearts. It has the ability to also transfer a state. That is, if the person who is giving the Diksha is in a profound state of, say, a deep stillness within or a silence, the Diksha, person who receives the Diksha, can also receive the state. And incredible healings of the heart and the body also happens. When you're talking about what is the grace, for that question, Jim, the universal intelligence or the divine or God is present everywhere in this universe. And this universal intelligence is an indweller, can also be experienced as an indweller in your heart. The ancients use this Sanskrit word, Hrit Pundarika Kshetra, that is the heart lotus, the dweller in your heart lotus. So the Anahata is your heart chakra. So you have this divinity, this intelligence that is present everywhere, is present in your heart. And in the process of Diksha, what happens is the person who's giving the Diksha connects to the Antaryaman, the indweller in your heart, and then transfers that grace from your Antaryaman to the receiver's heart. And the receiver awakens to the intelligence in their heart. So this is the process, and in this process, definitely healing happens. Uh, what is needed at this point in time is great peace gets transferred, silence gets transferred, an individual experiences quiet, that inner chaos, that the obsessive tendency quietens. So there is a transfer of state also.
This is Prodigy. This is beautiful. I'm just reading the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. And that is a gospel that is by tradition was written actually by Mary Magdalene in Alexandria after the passing of Jesus. And many scholars that are beginning to examine it believe that it's actually the oldest of the gospels.
Okay.
And it's been recently translated after being held in secret in France for over 1,000 years. And it's so interesting because the text has a certain quality to it. And over in this gospel, when Jesus heals, and the multitudes or the Pharisees or his disciples say, "Master, how did you do that?" He always says, "I experienced the indwelling of spirit."
Okay.
And I and the spirit become one. And in that oneness, I transfer spirit. So what you're describing as the phenomenon of Krishnaji and yourself and others in your community is strikingly similar to what's recorded in perhaps the most ancient gospel.
Beautiful.
About a man that had this extraordinary capacity to stay in a unified state
of consciousness,
spirit, of consciousness. And no matter what was going on around him, even sometimes when people didn't even know he was doing it, he would transfer grace. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I'm receiving echoes of deep primordial wisdom in what you're saying here today. And I just want to acknowledge that and thank you for the extraordinary clarity with which you're describing a deeply mysterious phenomenon.
Today, there are hundreds of thousands of Diksha givers across the world.
That's impressive.
To connect to the divinity within their heart and be that vehicle to transfer grace to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So, Preethji, as we bring this dialogue to a close, and I really thank you for taking the time and for your extraordinary grace and clarity in your remarks today. And I would love to have you give us a closing blessing or meditation. But before we do that, I'd like to return to this theme that I think everyone in the world is beginning to come to terms with, and that is that we're in code red now. And the ecological turbulence, including COVID, that is happening all around us, and the inability of our governments to continue to ensure stability is now the context for just about everybody in the world. And so how we all, first of all, come into an awareness that this is our future, escalating turbulence and increasingly fragile infrastructures. It means that we have to go into our interior, everyone, in ways that we never even imagined before COVID. So what's being laid out today by Preethji may be the most important information and perspective that you're going to hear, that it is the capacity of all of us to attune our inner state with absolute consciousness proportional to the rising chaos without, that's going to ensure our individual and collective capacity to navigate through what's coming. And so I would just ask you in closing, Preetji, as you understand all this, is there a particular virtue? Is it a particular one of the four secrets? Is there a particular technique of meditation that you would recommend for people as they face a very uncertain and increasingly chaotic future?
Definitely, inner chaos is only going to make things worse. So this practice is called the serene mind practice, and it is a practice for an individual to dissolve a suffering state as and when it arises. Over a period of time, it changes the way your brain works. It changes your consciousness. So it is a simple 3-minute practice that I want to lead you in. And every time you feel you're moving into an unpleasant state in consciousness, I would want you to do the serene mind practice. And I can also leave a link of this practice for all those who want to download and continue to do the practice. It's not a long practice. I have seen people use it before going to a board meeting. They don't want to do wrong decisions. I have seen people use this meditation or practice this meditation when they are having an unpleasant conversation with their children. So it helps you, it gives you the space, it changes what you feel, it moves you into a state of calm. And what is needed for this world today is greater peace and greater calm. So let us start there and then move into states of awakening. So please close your eyes. Allow your breath to be deep and slow. Inhale and exhale slowly. Bring attention to the emotion that is arising within you right now. Is it anger, frustration, loneliness? Or is it peace, calm, and joy? Or love? Just bring attention to the emotion that is arising within you. As this emotion is arising within you, bring attention to the movement of your mind. Are you obsessing over a past experience? Or are you obsessing over your future? Bring attention to the movement of your mind. Do not try to change it. Just observe. Now see a light move from the middle of your forehead. See the light move to the middle of your brain. See this flame glow in darkness. In the middle of your brain. Om Shanti. 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 May there be peace in your heart. May there be peace in the hearts of your loved ones. May there be peace in the world around you. You may slowly open your eyes.
Thank you, Preethji. You brought deep truth to us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to share with your community and the audience. And it has been a joy being with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you here again tomorrow on Humanity Rising. Bye for now.